There are moments when life becomes too heavy for shallow advice. You can be worried about the future. You can be tired from carrying too much. You can be grieving something no one else fully understands. You can be facing a decision and wishing God would simply tell you exactly what to do. You can be trying to change your thoughts, your habits, your reactions, your relationships, or your life, but still feel stuck in the same old patterns. And in those moments, people often turn to the Bible looking for peace, strength, guidance, or hope. But the Bible can also feel hard to approach. It is a large book. It contains history, poetry, wisdom, prophecy, letters, commands, promises, warnings, prayers, and teachings from many different moments in time. Sometimes people hear a famous verse without really knowing what it means. Sometimes a verse gets repeated so often that it becomes a slogan instead of a source of wisdom. And sometimes you do not need a complicated theological lecture. You just need someone to explain the passage clearly and help you understand what it means for real life. That is what this video is about. In my book, Bible Wisdom for Real Life, I explain 75 essential Bible passages in plain English for peace, strength, guidance, and hope. But in this video, I want to focus on 7 passages that speak directly to some of the most common struggles people face: fear, worry, grief, exhaustion, uncertainty, destructive thoughts, and the need for grace. These passages do not promise that life will suddenly become easy. They do not tell you to pretend pain is not real. They do not give shallow answers to deep problems. But they can give you something to hold on to. They can remind you what is true when your emotions are loud. They can help you take the next step when you cannot see the whole road. And they can point you back to the God who does not abandon people in the middle of fear, weakness, confusion, or failure. Here are 7 Bible passages that can bring peace, strength, and hope. The first passage is Isaiah 41 verse 10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will surely help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. This passage matters because fear often tells you that you are alone. Fear says, you cannot handle this. Fear says, you are about to be overwhelmed. Fear says, no one is coming to help you. But in Isaiah 41 verse 10, God answers fear with his presence. He does not simply say, stop being afraid. He gives a reason. Do not fear, for I am with you. That is the center of the promise. God does not promise that every frightening situation will instantly disappear. He does not say that you will never face danger, uncertainty, disappointment, or pain. He says, I am with you. That matters when you are dealing with a future you cannot predict. It matters when you are walking through financial pressure. It matters when your family situation is difficult. It matters when you are facing a decision and you do not know how everything will turn out. It matters when you feel weak and tired and unsure of yourself. The verse does not say you must produce unlimited strength from within yourself. God says, I will strengthen you. That is a different foundation. You are not being asked to become fearless by pretending nothing is wrong. You are being invited to trust that fear does not get the final word. Feeling afraid does not mean you have failed. Fear is a human response to danger and uncertainty. Courage does not mean fear never enters your mind. Courage means fear does not get to make every decision for you. You can feel afraid and still pray. You can feel uncertain and still act wisely. You can acknowledge what might go wrong without living as though the worst has already happened. You do not have to solve the entire future today. You only need enough strength to take the next wise and faithful step. The second passage is Matthew 6 verse 25 through 34. This is where Jesus teaches about worry. He says not to worry about life, about food, about clothing, or about tomorrow. And then he asks a simple question. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? That question cuts through a lot. Because worry often feels useful. It feels like you are doing something. It feels like you are preparing. It feels like you are protecting yourself from disappointment. But most worry is not preparation. It is mental repetition. It pulls tomorrow's possible problems into today and asks you to suffer through them before they even happen. You can worry about a conversation before it happens, then worry during the conversation, then replay it afterward. You can worry about money before the bill arrives, then worry after it arrives, then worry about the next bill. You can worry about what people think of you, what might go wrong, what you should have done, what you might lose, what you cannot control, and what could happen next. And after all that worry, the situation may not be any better, but you are exhausted. Jesus is not saying that planning is wrong. That is important. This passage does not mean, do not work. It does not mean, do not prepare. It does not mean, ignore your responsibilities. There is a difference between planning and consuming worry. Planning asks, what can I do? Worry asks, what if everything goes wrong? Planning helps you take action. Worry keeps you trapped in imagined outcomes. Planning can lead to a phone call, a budget, an apology, a decision, a prayer, a task, or a wise next step. Worry often leads to more worry. Jesus brings the focus back to today. He says, tomorrow will worry about itself. Today has enough trouble of its own. That does not mean tomorrow is unimportant. It means today is where obedience happens. Today is where you can pray. Today is where you can ask for help. Today is where you can make the call, write the note, finish the task, rest your body, tell the truth, or take one useful step. You do not have to carry today's real problems and tomorrow's imagined problems at the same time. God already knows what you need. You do not have to keep every future fear alive in your mind to make sure He notices it. The third passage is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Psalm 23 is one of the most familiar passages in the Bible, but familiarity can sometimes make us miss how powerful it really is. David calls the Lord his shepherd. A shepherd guides, feeds, protects, corrects, and cares for the flock. That image is personal. It is not distant. It is not cold. It is not merely religious language. It is a picture of care. Psalm 23 begins in green pastures and beside quiet waters. But it does not stay there. It also goes through the valley of the shadow of death. That is one reason this psalm has comforted so many people. It does not pretend that life is always peaceful. It includes rest. It includes restoration. But it also includes darkness, enemies, danger, and death. The circumstances change. The shepherd remains. That is the message. You may be in a peaceful season right now. You may be in a tired season. You may be in a dark valley. You may be in a season where it feels like opposition is all around you. But Psalm 23 reminds you that God's care does not disappear when your circumstances change. One of the most important words in the psalm is through. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. The valley is real, but the valley is not presented as the final destination. David does not say, I understand everything about this path. He does not say, I know exactly when the darkness will end. He says, you are with me. That is the comfort, not full explanation, not total control, not immediate escape. Presence. The shepherd is with him. And the same is true for you. You may not understand the whole path. You may not know how long the valley will last. You may not feel strong enough for everything ahead, but you can still take the next step with the shepherd. The fourth passage is Matthew 11 verse 28 through 30. Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. This is one of the most tender invitations in the Bible. Jesus does not say, come to me, all you who have everything figured out. He does not say, come to me, all you who are already strong. He does not say, come to me, all you who have never failed. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. That means the invitation is for tired people, burdened people, people carrying guilt, people carrying pressure, people carrying expectations, people carrying responsibilities that feel too heavy, people carrying the need to prove themselves, people carrying fear of disappointing everyone, people carrying regrets they do not know how to put down. And Jesus says, I will give you rest. This rest is deeper than taking a nap. It is deeper than a day off. Those things can help, but Jesus is talking about rest for the soul. Because your body can be sitting still while your soul is still tense. Your schedule can be empty while your mind is still racing. You can be away from work and still feel the pressure to prove your worth. Jesus offers a different way to carry life. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. A yoke was used for work, so this is not an invitation to a life with no responsibility. It is not a promise that you will never have hard things to do. It is an invitation to stop carrying life in the same crushing way. You can learn from someone who is gentle and humble in heart. You can stop believing your value depends on constant achievement. You can stop trying to control what everyone thinks of you. You can stop punishing yourself forever for the past. You can stop carrying responsibilities that were never yours to carry. Some burdens are truly yours. You may need to care for someone. You may need to face a consequence. You may need to finish difficult work. You may need to make an important decision. But other burdens were never yours. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot fix people who refuse to change. You cannot prevent every possible problem. You cannot live your whole life trying to be understood by everyone. And you cannot earn God's love by exhausting yourself. Rest sometimes begins when you learn the difference. The fifth passage is Proverbs 3 verse 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. People often want guidance because they want certainty. You want to know what decision will work. You want to know what problems might appear. You want to know whether you will regret the choice later. You want God to show you the entire road before you take the first step. But many important decisions have to be made before everything is clear. That is why this passage matters. It does not tell you to stop thinking. The book of Proverbs is full of wisdom, discipline, good judgment, learning, and wise counsel. So lean not on your own understanding does not mean turn off your brain. It means your understanding is limited. Your view is real, but it is not complete. You cannot see every consequence. You cannot know every motive. You cannot predict every problem. You cannot see every opportunity that may appear later. Your judgment can also be shaped by fear, pride, impatience, desire, or the need for approval. Trusting God means admitting that your perspective is not the whole perspective. That does not remove responsibility. You can gather information. You can ask for advice. You can consider the risks. You can pray. You can make the wisest decision you can. But at some point, you may still have to move forward without absolute certainty. That is where trust matters. The passage says to acknowledge God in all your ways. Not just in crisis. Not just at major crossroads. Not just when you are desperate. In all your ways. Guidance is not only about one big decision. It is also about the kind of person you are becoming every day. Honesty shapes your path. Humility shapes your path. Patience shapes your path. Self-control shapes your path. Compassion shapes your path. Faithfulness shapes your path. A straight path does not always mean an easy path. A straight path can still go uphill. But God can guide you away from what is crooked and toward a life that reflects his wisdom. You may not understand the entire path before you begin walking it. Trust sometimes means taking the wisest next step while admitting that God sees farther than you do. The sixth passage is Romans 12 verse 1 through 2. Paul writes, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This passage matters because so much of life is shaped by the way you think. Your thoughts shape your choices. Your choices shape your habits. Your habits shape your character. And over time, your character shapes the direction of your life. But here's the problem. Not every thought that enters your mind is true. A thought can feel convincing simply because it sounds like your own voice. But some thoughts are not wisdom. Some thoughts are fear. Some are shame. Some are old wounds. Some are assumptions. Some are lies you have repeated for so long that they feel like facts. You may think, my value depends on how much I accomplish. I need everyone to approve of me. If I fail once, all progress is lost. If someone rejects me, I must not be worth loving. If I feel something strongly, it must be true. Because I have always been this way, I cannot change. But familiar does not always mean true. Romans 12 says transformation happens through the renewing of your mind. That does not mean pretending everything is positive. It does not mean ignoring pain. It does not mean repeating fake confidence until you feel better. It means learning to recognize what is true, what is false, what is useful, and what is leading you away from the life God is calling you to live. One of the most important things in this passage is that Paul begins with mercy. He says, on account of God's mercy. That matters, because real change is not built on shame. Shame may push you for a little while. It may scare you into temporary improvement. But shame keeps telling you that your failures are your identity. Mercy creates a different foundation. Mercy allows you to face what needs to change without believing you are beyond grace. You can admit, this thought pattern is hurting me. You can admit, this habit is not good. You can admit, this reaction is not who I want to become. You can admit, I have been shaped by fear, comparison, anger, regret, or approval. But you do not have to stop there. You can be transformed. Your life does not have to remain shaped by every belief, pressure, and pattern that shaped you in the past. A renewed mind learns a new way to see, and a new way of seeing can lead to a new way of living. The seventh passage is John 3 verse 16 through 17. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that everyone who believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. These words are so familiar that it is easy to hear them without feeling their weight. But slow down and notice the movement. God loved, so God gave. Biblical love is not merely a feeling. It acts. It moves toward people. It gives. It sacrifices. It becomes visible. And the object of that love is the world. That includes people who are ashamed, people who are confused, people who are spiritually uncertain, people who have made mistakes, people who feel far from God, people who know something is wrong but do not know how to repair it. God did not wait for the world to become worthy before loving it. He loved first. And because he loved, he gave his Son. Verse 17 is also important. Jesus did not come merely to announce that broken people were broken. He came to save. That does not mean sin does not matter. It does not mean choices have no consequences. It does not mean the darkness is harmless. But it does mean condemnation is not the only possible ending. Through Jesus, another ending becomes available. Forgiveness, restoration, new life, hope. Some people imagine God as reluctant to show mercy, as though Jesus had to convince the Father to be kind. But John 3 verse 16 begins in a different place. The Father loved, and because he loved, he gave. The mission of Jesus flows from the love of God. That means the heart of Christianity is not, try harder until God accepts you. It is not, hide your failures and act religious. It is not, clean yourself up enough to become lovable. The message is that God has acted in love through Jesus Christ to save people who could not save themselves. That is why grace matters. Grace does not mean nothing needs to change. Grace means change begins from a place of mercy, not from the hopeless belief that you are already too far gone. The Bible gives wisdom for fear. It gives wisdom for worry. It gives wisdom for grief. It gives wisdom for exhaustion. It gives wisdom for decisions. It gives wisdom for your thoughts, habits, relationships, anger, forgiveness, work, money, and purpose. But at the center of the Bible is more than advice. There is a message of grace. God came near. Love acted. Christ died and rose again. And new life became possible. So as you think about these 7 passages, ask yourself, which one do I need most right now? Do I need to remember that God is with me in fear? Do I need to stop carrying tomorrow's imagined problems today? Do I need to remember that the shepherd is still with me in the valley? Do I need to come to Jesus with the burdens I have been carrying alone? Do I need to take the next step without demanding total certainty? Do I need to let God renew the way I think? Or do I need to remember that God's love is not just a religious idea, but something he demonstrated through Jesus? You do not have to master all of this at once. You do not have to fix your entire life today. Sometimes one passage is enough for the day. One truth, one prayer, one next step, one reminder that fear, worry, grief, exhaustion, confusion, and failure do not have to have the final word. If this message resonated with you, my book, Bible Wisdom for Real Life, 75 Essential Passages Explained in Plain English for Peace, Strength, Guidance, and Hope is available on Amazon. It walks through 75 Bible passages in a simple, practical way, with explanations designed to help you understand what the passage means and how it applies to real life. You can find it through the link in the description or by searching Brandon Murray Books on Amazon. And wherever you are in life right now, remember this. You do not need shallow advice for deep struggles. You need truth that can hold up under pressure. You need wisdom that can travel with you into real life. You need peace when your mind will not slow down. You need strength when your own strength feels small. You need hope when the road ahead is unclear. And you do not have to walk that road alone.